Hello, Roadrunner fans. Thank you for joining us today. We've got a really fun show lined up for you, and we're excited to have the unveiling of our Roadrunner men's soccer all-decade team, 2010 through 2020. We've got a great cast here. We're going to reminisce about Roadrunner men's soccer for a little bit. We've got Gus Ostrum here, sports information specialist. We've got the head coach, George Hobbins, with us. He's going to be breaking down the team.
Fellas.
Great to have you with us. We've got assistant coaches and alumni with us, Palangi and Andrew McNellis. I thank each of you for coming on the show, and we can't wait to hear from each of you and get some great memories and hear about the players that made this past decade so special in Roadrunner soccer. So again, thanks to the fans, and we'll give you just some background here. Coach Hobbins, we're going to start with you, current head coach. You've taken the team deep into the Region 19 playoffs. Maybe one of the hardest tasks, though, you've had is helping us put together an all-decade team. Talk about a little bit of the process of putting that together.
This was a lot of fun. It took some time. We sat down, we pulled up some rosters, pulled out some of the old conference and the old region teams, pulled some stats together, and really excited about this group of players that we have here tonight to talk about this all-decade team for the Roadrunners. We're going back to 2010. Some names on this list. They're legends. Those guys have left their footprint here at the college, and we're really excited.
Hey, Brian Palangi, quick question for you. Give us the update. What years did you play, and how excited are you to unveil this group?
I played in 2015 and 16, I believe. And what was your other question? I'm sorry.
And are you excited to be on the show and unveil this group?
Oh, yes. Very excited.
we can't wait to hear some of your insights and behind the scenes maybe a little bit. Andrew, you were the goalkeeper for us, and you spanned two different coaches. Give us a little bit of your background, what years you were here, and then what you did afterwards too.
Yeah, so I played in 2012 and 2013 here. After that, I went on to play at Rowan for a year. And then I was an athletic trainer at a high school, and I ended up getting my nursing degree too. So I've been all around, and now I'm back helping out coaching. So it's really been a full circle.
It's great to have you, and we sent a lot of players to the NJAC. Brian, you obviously were an NJAC guy too.
Yes, sir.
Rutgers Camden, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you're right. Played 2 years at Rutgers Camden after my time at Boston.
Great stuff. So it's good to have everybody here with us. Coach Hobbins, you are now getting ready to unveil this group, and we're going to go position by position, and we may have some follow-up questions for you. But let's start all the way up front. The guys that scored the goals, the guys that put the pressure on the opposing teams. Some of these names, I can't wait to hear them and reminisce a little bit about them. You've got a first team and second team. And let's start with the forwards and hear what you have and start to unveil this all-decade group.
Well, this all-decade team of forwards, second team, Omar Silla. Omar is a Lindewall High School grad, came to us and played for us 1 year. Very talented, very technical player. Real excited to add Omar to this team. Our first team, two players here. One player who was here with me in the very beginning, Christian Van Auken from Triton High School. Christian was National Player of the Week during 2014, and was an all-region player for us, and still holds some of our records during our preseason workouts that we have. Our other forward, an all-region, all-conference player and a captain of our team for a couple of years back in 2015, 2016, I believe, is Dylan Skidmore. Dylan played all over for us, but played up top for us most recently, and was all-region, all-conference as a forward. And have really did a great job for us, and real excited about Dylan being on this team. So that's our forwards, second team and first team, and really quality players there who really like putting the ball in the back of the net.
Hey, great start, Coach. Some great names there. Gus, I'm going to bring you in on this. You covered Dylan Skidmore throughout his career here with the Roadrunners.
Right.
Probably one of your favorites to cover throughout his time, two-sport athlete for us as well.
Oh, Dylan has let me know that he's one of my favorites to cover too. He's not shy. He's also a pretty good announcer too, and he's come back and announced the games. But now I'll tell you something that I've noticed about all of the teams that I've covered since 2016. The backbone of the team seems to be amazing defense. Brian Palangi, I saw you play quite a bit, and Andrew, I heard a lot of great things about you. I saw Chris Lenahan play. I saw that team of the decade play. So let me ask you, Brian Palangi, I guess, real quick. I'll ask you the nice questions. Why not, right? Tell me why the defense on a team like that is, so important, and why did it really make that team as good as it was?
I think it's important because we always had a good bond, and we would always keep the team level. If anything ever went wrong, we were always there to keep everyone supported, and no one was really going to break us down too much. So when you get in rough situations late in games, we're always there to be relied on. And I think that won us a lot more games because we were so close knit.
And Andrew, you obviously know the importance of having some good defenders in front of you. So tell us why you think some of these players on this all-decade team are living up to their billing here.
Basically because it's just a work ethic. A lot of them come from strong South Jersey programs, and they just helped build it on. And I think a lot of them realized that they needed to take a step up to play at the college level, and a lot of them did. And starting from GCC to RCGC and now RCSJ Gloucester, it's just kind of started a long tradition that it's a strong program and you step up. And basically a lot of the defenders and all the players overall on this all-decade team really stepped up and were a strong part of the program.
Okay, we'll let Coach Hobbins, I guess, come in on some of that, right?
Yeah, whenever we start to put our teams together, we always look to build out, from the back, and we take some pride in our defense and shutting teams down, and we'll talk about that as we work our way through this decade team. But we've had some really solid players, settle in back there for us and do a great job for us. Starting with Brian Palangi, who we'll have a chance to talk a little bit more about him in a little bit.
Hey, so Coach, Omar, left-footed, he had some of the probably more fantastic goals I've seen in the years I've been around.
Yeah, Omar's a very gifted player. Like you said, a left-footed player, and you would hear coaches say, "Hey, he's only left-footed. Take away his left foot." It doesn't matter. You couldn't take away his left foot. He had the quickest ankles I think I've ever seen, and just could turn on a player very, very quickly. Was very quick, had a great first step, and like you said, that year he played for us, he scored some very big goals for us in some big games, and he's still playing today, and it's hard to find players like that, with that type of talent.
Hey, and Christian Van Auken's been out for a few years now. What about an update? I know you're still in touch with him.
Yeah, Chris is doing well. He's in law enforcement. He's out there every day helping to protect us. So, my heart and my thanks go out to Christian for what he does every day, to keep us safe. And, Christian came in my first year, he really settled in very quickly. He was very open-minded, wanted to learn, and grew just tremendously as a player those couple of years that he was here.
Yeah, and certainly we'll hear more about him. He's doing some great things. Now, it's a crowded midfield, okay? You've got a lot through this decade. The midfield area, you've had some elite-type players. and it's time to turn it over and let you unveil the second team and the first team. I mean, these are the great names, the players that control the field, the players that have helped us win so many games in men's soccer through the years. Let's hear it, Coach.
Yeah, this is, your midfield. That's the motor of your team. That's the heart of your team that gets everything going. And we've had some really, really solid players come through here. And this was a tough pick. There's some players that aren't on this list that had great careers there for us. The 2 years they played for us. But, this is a pretty solid list. We'll start with the second team, with Dylan's brother, Jason Skidmore. Jason played for us early on, was a captain for us. And he played pretty much wherever we needed him, but really settled in the midfield and did a great job. Another player in the midfield, Brendan Parker. Brendan played at GCC, right, the year before I got there. And I remember watching him play in high school. Very solid midfield player, very technical, really good on the ball, was Brendan Parker. The other midfielder, Ryan Mellon, played a year for me. Ryan was a workhorse in the midfield. And when Ryan was ready to turn it on, he could control a game and, played a year before I got there and then played that first year for me and did a great job out in the midfield. Another midfielder, player from Paul 6, Paulo D'Alessandro. Paulie played for me for 2 years in the midfield. A very technical player, played outside, played inside, had great vision, and could really control things in the midfield and would really set things up nicely for our forwards with Paulie. And then another player that played before I got here, I believe, played with you, Andrew, was Franny Smith. Very solid goal scorer. Played in the center of the midfield, but, had some great games putting balls in the back of the net in those early years. I don't know if you want to say anything about him, Andrew.
Yeah, so I played with him. He was a sophomore when I came in as a freshman. He was a great player. He was very he just gave the ball up a lot. We had to basically beg him a lot of times. We're like, just shoot. Every time he had the ball in his foot and he shot, it went in. So, but he was a great player, technically very skilled. Just kind of was the motor in the middle of the field, and he was just very solid overall.
Yeah.
Andrew, one of the things I remember about Franny, and we reminisced a little bit about this earlier today, he had 5 goals in 2 games to get us into the playoffs that last year when Coach Dugan, I think, was the coach. And, I had a hat trick and then followed it up with 2 goals and 2 assists or something the next game. Ridiculous to get, a hot stretch like that to lead us into the playoffs.
Yeah, so basically, I still remember that. The last stretch, he just really turned it on, and we kind of saw what he was capable of, and it was awesome to see. I mean, just a local kid that he was very quiet. He didn't speak much, but his playing really spoke for himself.
That's cool. Going to the first team now in the midfield. This was tough, but we've had some really solid players, like I said, come from this midfield. First player I like to talk about, Brandon Harley from Pennsauken High School. Brandon was a 2-time all-region player and all-conference player for us, and was a very hard worker. Went on to play at William Patterson for 2 years, and really did a great job out of the midfield coming out of the school, Pennsauken High School. Another midfield player, Justin Fye. Justin's graduating this year, and midfielder from Triton High School. First team all-region, first team all-conference for 2 years, and going to be heading on to Rutgers Camden next year. Justin Fye is a player that you don't see come along very often in the midfield. He's very quick, very solid with the ball, can really control play, and Justin pretty much was the engine of our team the last couple of years and has done a great job for us, and I'm sure he'll do well at Rutgers Camden. Another midfielder, Andrew Suey. Andrew's from Millville High School. Andrew was all-region and an all-conference player as well. Andrew played the 6 for us. He played that holding mid, that defensive midfield position. And, Andrew, was just a great guy. The team players loved him. Great team guy, hard worker, just would come out every day and just help to shut things down in front of that back line a lot of times and just, screen off a lot that was going on in that midfield. Another player, the last player on this first team, midfield team, is Tanner Lyons. Tanner's from West Effort High School. Tanner came in here and played 2 years for us. Again, a player that played in that number 6 position, that holding mid or defensive mid. And, again, was a great passer, had a good head on his shoulders, really understood the game. And, was able to start the attack out of that 6th position, but more importantly, was able to shut down a lot, in front of that back line to really help protect our back 4. So real solid midfield with that second team and first team, real quality players on there, all region players, all conference players, and some just solid players here.
Well, I'd say solid is the understatement of the show so far, Coach. Some of these guys are showstoppers. Great group. Brian Palangi, thinking about that group, who stands out to you from that list that Coach Hobbins just went over?
Stands out in a good way or bad way?
Give us the good.
Well, so far, I played with a lot of these guys. I played with Omar, played with Christian Van Alken, Brandon Harley, Tanner Lyons I played with, Jason Skidmore I played with, but I had the privilege to coach Justin Fye. So, I know a lot of these guys, and they're all very special people, special players. They're just so talented. I can't even put into words, Right. Playing with them was a blessing, really. So.
Yeah, and Justin Fye in particular, really, he seemed to come on strong, toward the end of the year, and he really picked it up both his freshman and sophomore years. He was a hard worker, and sometimes it was probably hard to adjust to new teammates, but he seemed to really come along. He worked hard, and I thought he was a solid player. He'll be missed,
Yeah, absolutely, Gus. That's a player that's very difficult to replace. And one thing more about Justin Fye is, a lot of times you're watching him play on the field and he makes things look so easy and effortlessly. You're almost like, when's he going to start turning it on? And, he's just so smooth as a player. And I know he drove other teams in our conference, in our region, gave him some headaches the last couple of years for sure.
Hey, I believe that Brandon Harley is going on to a coaching career, if I'm not mistaken. What's the update on him?
Yeah, last time I talked to Brandon, he was here in the fall, scouting out the team a little bit. He's an assistant coach at William Patterson and doing some recruiting for them. And he was down here taking a look at the guys. We have a player on our roster right now that's getting a look from William Patterson, and we're hoping that we can start sending a few more players their way as well.
Yeah, great guy. I'm wish him luck, and congratulations to all those midfielders on the first and second team. Now, you've mentioned two Skidmores. How about that? How often do two brothers get placed on an all-decade team? Great family. They've been great to the Roadrunners. Just really good stuff. And I believe Jason is also involved in law enforcement.
Right. Jason is also involved in law enforcement. And he was just the Tri-County Conference just did a meals program for law enforcement. And Jason was one of the officers that was highlighted in that meal exchange. And again, our heart goes out to Jason, and we thank him for what he does every day for keeping our lives safe. It was funny that the last game that Dylan played in, I remember walking up to Mr. Skidmore and say, "Okay, you got any more boys in his family?" Because we had a Skidmore roster for 4 years, and I was hoping we'd have another Skidmore ready to hop in there. But it's a great family. Two really solid, both captains, two solid leaders who gave their heart and soul to this program, for 4 years.
Yes, leaders is definitely the word that comes to mind. All right, Coach, we've talked a little bit about defense. We know that you don't like to give up many goals. You're a bit stingy, is what the opposing coaches say about you.
Right.
Let's
Right.
turn it over now to the defensive side and get that backfield. Second team followed by the first team.
Sounds good. With this second team, some really, really good players on the second team. Honorable mention, we start out with Jose Gonzalez. Jose was from Deptford High School. Played center back for us, played with Brian as a center back. And, Jose's not the biggest guy in the world, size-wise, but is a giant the way he used to play out of that center back position. Very quick, a lot of speed, and just a great student of the game. Another second team player, Chris DeAngelis. Chris is from Washington Township High School. Chris played outside back, was very strong in attacking in that outside back position. And, he played for me my first year there. He actually, came in late, and we were happy to have him. We really had a solid year, and really liked running that sideline. Very quick in getting back, very good in transition. Chris DeAngelis. Another second team player, Royal Thomas. Royal was on that team of the decade. Royal's from Williamstown High School. Played outside back for us. Went on to play at Ramapo College, and Royal, strong defender, very quick, just solid 1v1 defender, and did a wonderful job, on that number 3 spot, on that left back spot. Another second team player is currently on the roster. Is a freshman this year for us, Jake Fazy. Jake's from Triton High School, a center back. Just a very strong center back for us. Nothing rattles him. He's got the same, he's in the same mode all the time on the field. You never see him get upset. You never see him get excited. He just, very calm, very cool out there, Jake. And, we're looking for big things coming back next year in this 220 team in the fall. Now, the first team, there's some names on this first team that, all South, these players are all from South Jersey, as most of this roster is all from South Jersey. But this first team back situation, we're gonna start with a player from Delsea High School, all region, 2-time all region, 2-time all conference, a captain for us, that's currently at Rutgers Camden, was defensive player of the week at Rutgers Camden this year. Bobby Andrews out of Delsea High School. Bobby played center back for us. Because out of necessity, probably would want to have played more in the midfield, but came in and played center back for us. A strong defender, very versatile player though, but can play outside, can play inside. We can switch him in the midfield, and Bobby, 2-time all-region, all-conference player. The next first team, all back, is Tyler Liberkowski. Tyler, 2-time all-region, all-conference player. He's from Triton High School. He's heading off to Rutgers Camden next year. Tyler played 2 years for us at center back. Played every game, almost every minute. I think I drug him off a couple of times. He wasn't too happy, but just get him off the field. But just solid, game in, game out. You knew when Tyler was there, the job was going to get done, and he did an excellent job for us for 2 years. Another first team back is Justin Fife. Justin's from Williamstown High School. Justin played the number 2 for us. He played an outside back for 2 years. Was all region, all conference. He was a national player of the week his sophomore year. Justin's the fastest player I think we've ever had in my 6 years in the program. Very fast, will get up and down sidelines. I remember one game a player beat him one-on-one. and was going down the field, and there was Justin again. He had to beat him twice on that play because Justin got back so quickly. We recovered very quickly. Scored some big-time goals for us. Came up and scored a winning goal in a 1-0 game. That was a game winner. And Justin 5. And Justin also today is a law enforcement. And, again, I want to thank him for his service. The last player on this first place team, is with us tonight, and that's Brian Palangi. Brian played 2 years at Rutgers Camden, captain his senior year, played 2 years for us, two-time all-region player, two-time all-conference player. In 2016, he was the Region 19 Player of the Year, and that year was first-team All-American. And, we can't say enough about Brian's leadership and, what he's brought to the program. He was responsible for, setting the tone of that team of the decade team. Just give you a little story about Brian. Early in the year, we lost the game 4-3 to a team that we were beating, and I know everybody's head was down that game. And I went over to talk to Brian, and I remember Brian saying to me, "Coach, don't worry, we got this. It won't happen again." And with that, we ran a string of 9 straight wins from that situation. And that was the type of leader he was. He wasn't a very voiceful leader. He wouldn't get in your face, but when Brian stood up and talked, everybody listened. And a player of his caliber, comes into your program, once a decade, and as a result, he's our player of the decade in this team as well. It's a privilege for me to have coached Brian for 2 years, and now he's back in the program as an assistant coach. And having Andrew and Brian, both former players in this program, who know what it's like to win, who know what it takes to win at this level. I think it's real important for the players in this program, and what they have to offer back into this program again is priceless.
Great stuff there, Coach. And we can hear the how much you care about those players in your voice and everything that you said. Hey, Brian, that's big news. Player of the decade. Not everybody gets to walk around in any endeavor that they're in their life and say they were the person of the decade. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
That must mean a lot to you.
Yeah, it means a whole lot to me. I love playing here. It was the best 2 years of my life almost. Playing for Coach Hobbins was great. Taught me a lot. He was always there for me on and off the field. I met all my friends there, still friends with them to this day. It was just a great 2 years overall.
Hey, we're going to come back to you, Brian. I know Gus has a couple questions for you. Andrew, I wanted to ask you one player that stands out on that group to me, Jake Fazy. He's the only player on the all-decade team that is only a freshman and has another year to play. He's a guy, when I watch him, I say he could fit in on any one of the teams we ever had, whether great teams, he'd be a leader. No matter what, I feel like he could fit in anywhere. Talk about him for just a minute and what you see that's so special about him.
Yeah, you don't see many kids like him. He's just very level-headed. He's very mature for his age. I mean, he's a physical specimen too, but like I said, he's just level-headed. All the players, all the coaches, everyone respects him, and he just has a winning mentality. He wants to do everything the right way. He doesn't cut corners. He basically just really wants to be part of a solid program and do anything he can do to help. So I have nothing but great things to say about that kid.
And it's going to be really fun to see him progress and come back next year. The fastest player, George, that was going to be one of my lightning rounds questions, Justin Fife. Brian, could you beat him in a foot race?
Nah, never. He was special. It was God-given. No one could catch him. He would just be up and down the sideline, super fit. He would never get tired. He was just a headache for them, But I love playing next to him on my side,
He was a great one to watch, that whole group was. Gus, I know you have a couple questions for Brian.
Yeah, Brian, I know you had a great career at Rutgers Camden, and I'm sorry I got started on defense a little prematurely there. We're sitting here talking with both Brian and Andrew. This is an amazing group, and I always think that defense is the hallmark of this program. But Brian, tell me, when I was talking with a lot of the players last year, I've got to tell you, they mentioned your name, and actually, and Coach Andrew, the same thing. Because the goalkeeping has been great as well the past few years, but the players definitely seem to relate to you guys quite a bit. You may not necessarily think so, but they are listening. I could tell you that, and they know, and they know it's a season-long struggle. But how do you feel being on this side of the, on the sidelines now and trying to convince these guys they got to be consistent, got to be tough, and whatever they got to do, right?
I actually really enjoy it because, I've been in their shoes before. I know what it's like to be a player. So, like, on the coaching staff, it's nice to, like, look back and be able to kind of give back to a program that did so much for me in a way. Like, these guys look up to me, and I remember being in their spot looking up to my coaches. So it's like I feel like I need to do the most for them
Right.
to give them the most that they can have to, like, succeed, It's a nice feeling.
I think some of those guys thought that you might try to switch the uniform back on, go replace them last year. So they picked it up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love to go back.
All right, Coach Hobbins, it's time, the special place in your heart for the guys that are on the very back line, that direct traffic in front of them, that don't always get the credit that they deserve, but they're going to get it tonight as we unveil. And I'm sure this was tough because you've had some great players in goal. But we're going to unveil the first team, second team, goalkeepers of the decade.
Yes, this was hard because during this decade we've had some really solid goalkeepers, and I know within our program, we've had some good goalkeepers come through here. We have a couple new ones coming in next year that are going to be solid for us. We currently have a freshman, Connor Rink, who had a great year for us, led the nations in save percentage this year. This is a pretty solid position, and being a goalkeeper, one that I take some pride in, and within this program. And the two players that we're going to talk about, very solid goalkeepers, for this college for their 2 years. Second team, Andrew McNellis. Andrew played in goal 2 years back when it was Gloucester County College, and then went on to play at Rowan University. And even today, he's back here as an assistant coach, does the training with our goalkeepers, and he even puts the gloves back on every once in a while and hops back in there again. And you can still see, the quality that, he provided, when he was a player here. And, we're excited that, Andrew's part of this all-decade team. And then our first team goalkeeper on this all-decade team is Chris Lenahan. And, Chris, two-time All-Region player, two-time All-Conference player, National Goalkeeper of the Week in 2017, second-team All-American in 2016. And, Chris, I have to credit one of our assistant coaches who isn't with our program right now. He stepped away to forward his education, but Tim Schmitz was responsible for getting Chris in here. Chris was a last-minute addition to this program, and came in here, and there was another freshman goalkeeper when Chris came in. The two of them were split in time in the beginning, and Chris just continued working hard, and by the time he was done, he's a second-team All-American for us, and went on to play, at Rutgers Camden, and Chris and Brian both came back last year, and put that nameplate on that wall of fame, the hall of the All-American wall that we have, in the lobby of the of our physical education center. So Chris is 2-year solid goalkeeper, game in and game out. And what made Chris so special was not that he was a student of the game as much as he was, and would pick my brain every minute that we were together. But he was so solid with his feet, and was so dangerous, with playing balls with his feet. Just a real good all-around goalkeeper.
Hey, great two guys. Andrew, congratulations. I know we got some questions for you about this. Gus, I think you were there that moment when Chris Lenahan had his most shining moment in that overtime win over Bucks. Do you remember that one?
I do remember that was, those our games with Bucks, as I know all of you are well aware, were pretty intense. I don't know how else to put it, and that was quite a game for Chris. I remember a great game for the entire program, and what a moment. I don't know how else to put it, but that was an exciting time, and the goalkeeping was amazing that day.
Yeah, let me set the tone for that, Gus. So it comes out as a tie game. We go into overtime, comes out, remains tied. We go into penalty kicks. Chris is in there for penalty kicks, and we're battling back and forth with PKs.
Right.
And I think we might have been at the 7th or 8th penalty kick, maybe at that time. I can't quite remember. And I was like, Lenny, you're going to go take this kick. And, if he puts it in, we win. If not, it continues with penalty kicks. And I remember, the look on his face. He just wanted that ball, and he wanted to do this. And what was really neat that day was the baseball team was practicing that day, and I remember them. They were up on the outfield fence, hanging over the outfield fence, and just supporting and as loud as they could. And I remember the tennis team came running over. The women's soccer was practicing that day because it was our regional game, and they had a bye, and they were all there. The crowd was on the edge of their seat, and I just remember Lenny coming up and burying that ball like it was yesterday. And to me, that was a big moment for this program. And he put that away. Somebody said to me later on, that took a little bit of nerve to do that with your goalkeeper. And I said, well, one of two things was going to happen. He was going to make it and we were going to finish, or he was going to miss it. And then I was going to say, uh-oh, now what do we do? But he stepped right up and buried that for us. And, that was a good moment for the program.
Yeah, that was a great one we won't forget anytime soon, and a great image. Him and who was the player that jumped into his arms earlier? Do you remember that photo?
Yeah.
We have that great still photo, and maybe our editors will put that in here as we're talking about. Brian, do you remember that?
I remember that very well.
Who was that was in that photo?
That was me and Chance, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say Chance O'Connor, probably, right?
Yes,
Chance.
yeah, I think it was the first one.
And you guys probably
stuff.
remember another great moment. I believe it was last season, that one goal, with basically 1 second left, coming off of a corner. Was that Justin? I'm not sure if it was Justin. What's
Neiman.
that?
Wasn't it Joe Neiman?
That's exactly right. Yeah, but
Mr.
that was
Clutch.
another fabulous moment.
Yeah, Uncle Joe had 3 big-time game winners for us, and that one was as time was ticking off the clock, he put it home, and it was a great moment for us last year.
Hey, so Andrew, second team, all decade, great stuff. Something you can do for us is take us back. Coach Jason Dugan was your coach, and just to tell us a little bit about him. He was here for just 2 years, did some really good things, and got the program on a solid footing before Coach Hobbins took over.
Yeah, so Coach Dugan was a great guy. He was a 4-year starter at Rowan before he came over. He coached in high school a little bit, but he just had that really college, this headstrong mentality, and it was just go, go, go. And it was, the kids and the players that stepped up, you could see that. And then the other ones kind of drifted off. With him, it was, we had some really strong players come out and continue to play afterwards. He brought in Charlie Cunliffe, who was the goalkeeper coach, another 4-year starter at Rowan. And it was just their mentality and the drills and just the overall playing style that they brought in really, for me personally, brought my level to play at the college level. And they were a huge asset to my game and my life. And I still keep in touch with both of them. They're just 2 great people. And I have nothing but good things to say about them and everyone else that I met in my 2 years at GCC.
Great to hear that. And That's an unbelievable team. It's really great, Coach Hobbins. Thanks for unveiling it. There's some people that maybe didn't make it on the first or second team, but maybe left a lasting impression over the course of the last decade. And that brings us to the lightning round.
Okay.
We're gonna-
Okay. Before don't
Go ahead.
forget our
Go ahead,
team of
Coach.
the decade. Can we talk about that real
Oh,
quick? Before we get
sure.
the lightning round.
Sure,
So our
I was
team
going
of
to
the
save that
decade.
for last, but this is perfect timing.
Yeah, team of the decade was that 2016 team. That was Brian's sophomore year, and that was a team that strung together 9 straight wins and went on to the regional final. 14-3-1 in that team. They were ranked, I think, 10th in the nation in the National Soccer Coaches polls, and I think 9th in the NJCAA poll. A real solid team. A lot of players on this decade team are a result of that team, and that's a team that has set some records. Shutouts in the season. Chris Lenahan had set that for us during that time. So real special team.
Great group, Brian. Anything you want to mention about that group and that season?
Oh no, that was one of my favorite teams ever by far. There's just something about us, it was just we always showed up, we always worked hard, we all loved each other, we were all best friends, seriously, and it was just very special to see how we were able to take being really good friends and going to the field and then just getting it done every single day. It was very special.
And I'm sure a lot of members of that group are tuned in right now and excited to have heard their names and heard some of those great memories. All right, gentlemen, buckle your seatbelts. It's the lightning round.
Here we
We're
go.
going to throw some names and questions at you, and you throw out there the names that come out first. Gus, you can chime in on any of this too.
Okay.
From 2010 through 2020, who was the funniest player of the decade? Who cracked you up through that time? Teammates, players that played for you. Who was it?
For me, I think I had to be Andrew Suey. Andrew was always the guy that would always lighten things up for you. He wore the Gilligan hat from time to time, wore a bucket hat, and was just a guy who he knew when it was just right to bring in a little levity and help to ease the moment from time to time.
Andrew, who you got?
I think I got to go with my buddy John Robbins. I mean, he just kept it light all the time. He was a great guy. He worked hard too, but he just knew when to throw a joke in here and there. And I still keep in touch with him all the time now. But he was just a great kid.
One of the great ones. I love him. He also played tennis for me. Love that guy. Brian, who you got?
This is tough, man. I think I'm gonna have to go with Justin Fife, probably.
Yeah.
Justin is just a jokester off the field, on the field. We'll be on the field playing in a serious game, and he's cracking jokes on the side. He was just relentless. He would never stop. He was a good kid, though.
All right, good start to the lightning round. Next question: who was the most skilled, legitimate, technical skilled of the decade for the Roadrunners? Brian, you're up first on this one.
Oh man, I think I'd have to go with. It's a split between Justin and Omar. I can't really pick one. I think both of them were just so special. It was like God-given, like the things they do, you would just sit back and watch. How they do that, It was every day they would do things like that. So it'd have to be one of those two. I can't pick,
That's true. That's two good names right there. Andrew, who you got?
I was going to say either Justin Fye or Fran Smith was up there too for me. Either one. Both different sides of the decade, but I don't mind playing with either one.
Yeah, two good ones there. Coach, who you got?
I have to agree with Brian. It's between Omar and Justin Fye. And I don't know, I might lean more towards Justin, just because he played 2 years here and I've seen him in some situations where, you were like, wow, he just pulled that off. So those two definitely most technical players that I can remember.
All right, next question, and we're moving through this quick. Andrew, you're up first. Through the past decade, who had the most spirit? Who was the greatest guy? Who had the most team spirit through the past decade in Roadrunner men's soccer?
That's a tough one. I'm trying to think of people.
Nobody said it would be easy being on the All Decade
No.
show.
Yeah, putting me on the spot. I'm trying to think. You know what? I got to go with I played with Brian Carlin for 2 years, and he bled blue and yellow for those 2 years. I mean, he was a great student too, and I mean, he was a star student. He really cared about the program, and he was always the first one at practice and would do anything for the college overall. So that's my vote.
Great choice. Love Brian Carlin, 4.0 student. He was on a bunch of the college's recruiting materials, and a great player. Love him to death for sure. Brian, you're up.
For me, I'm going to pick Gavin Myler. Gavin was, solid player. He didn't play every minute of every game, but he cared about this program so much, and he was always in there doing what he had to do, focusing. He'd always be working out in the gym after practice, he just really enjoyed the program and wanted to do whatever he could for us,
Great choice. Great choice. Coach,
Yeah,
close
two
it
good
out.
names. Brian Carlin, actually, when I was at Washington Township High School and I worked there, Brian used to come back and visit us being a township grad. Brian actually spent time with me when I first took this job over and helped me sort out through the roster and sort out some names here. Really solid, just a solid kid. And Gavin Myler, I still wait to hear his voice as we walk out of the locker room. Remember what he used to say, Brian?
Walking out of
Yeah, it was walking out of the locker room. He would say, "Let's go, boys."
Yeah, every single day.
He like Brian said, may have not played every minute, but was just there day in and day out. Another player that sticks to my mind is Matt Pastore. Matt played for us for 2 years, was a captain for 2 years, and Matt, loved this program, and I know, I just reached out to him recently, and just a solid spirited player. But I do have to mention, didn't play for us, but was part of this program for 3 years, and we're gonna have to replace him, and that's going to be a tough job to do, and that's Raymond Wu. Raymond was our manager for 3 years, and if you go by most spirited, he was there every game, and he wasn't on the field. He was there taking the stats and keeping the books for us, and taking care of making sure the balls had air in them and doing all that. But I know in some of those moments, Ray was right on the field, and if you talk about team spirit, that's Raymond Wu.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. He did the same for women's basketball, and I remember the year they won the region title, and he was right out on that court within seconds, like everybody else.
Hey, great start. Last one, and then we're gonna finish up the lightning round. And one of the things about playing any Roadrunner sport is the van rides. You got to hop on the van, and you got to take a trip. So you've got a choice, one person to put on the van with you. You've got a big game against whoever our rival is that particular year. Who you taking on the van? Coach Hobbins, we're going to start with you.
It would probably be a Skidmore. Either one, Jason or Dylan. Sitting right there in that shotgun seat right next to me on that van. Just setting the tone in that van. Either one of them would definitely be my pick.
Great stuff. Andrew.
During my time, it had to be Giuseppe Bua, mainly because he was funny and his dad owned a pizza shop, so he always had the best snacks.
That's definitely important for the van rides for sure. Brian, close us out.
For me, I would probably say Tanner Lyons. Tanner was always my guy who would, keep me level-headed whenever I start getting upset. He was like my dad almost. Like, he'd be like, come on, man, you got this. Let's pick it up. If I was ever having a bad game, I always needed Tanner by my side. So he's my choice.
Great stuff. We all love to have Tanner by our side. What a great guy. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for coming on. We hope that everyone that was able to tune in here today enjoyed the show and stayed with us to hear some of those great names. Gus, Brian, Andrew, George. Thank you so much for making it a special decade for Roadrunner men's soccer. And at this point, we're going to close it out. Any last thoughts or something we didn't get to? Now's the time.
Brian, if you don't mind me just starting that real fast here, I know we're in some real challenging times. You guys are legends of the Roadrunner men's soccer program, all of you. And, with the pandemic that we've gone through and everything, and how tough is it, just having to deal with what's coming up and, next season? I guess this is very unusual, and this is a real test for you, I imagine, right?
Yeah, it's very hard, but my biggest thing for our guys is going to be, taking care of what they can on their own. You can still stay fit being at home. You can still, try to work on your feet. You can go in the backyard, play the ball, stuff like that. But the main thing for me is just keeping the focus, because one day we're going to be through all this, and they need to be ready to go when the season starts to roll around, So if they can just maintain their focus, that's my biggest thing.
Good.
I want to thank all of you for what you're doing, through these times too.
Yeah, Gus, we've we've pretty much approached it as a coaching staff, and are still out there recruiting. I was on the phone today with 2 recruits, I'm really excited about next season. I'm really excited looking towards 2020. I think this is a team that's going to kick off this next decade with a lot of memories. I mean, this roster we're putting together for next year, is really going to help set off this next decade on a positive note. So we're working hard, we're excited, and we're looking forward to the fall.
Yeah, no doubt we'll have another great all-decade team coming up, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, great job. Congratulations to all our all-decade players. And keep following us at RC Roadrunners on social media and our website. Coaches, thanks for coming on. Gus, thanks for coming on. Go Roadrunners.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for everybody.
Thank you.